This episode of Earl Grey is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek FM at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org.
Hi, this is Marina Sirtis, Deanna Troi from Star Trek The Next Generation. You're listening to Trek FM.
Earl Grey hot.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Earl Grey, Trek FM's dedicated podcast to the next generation. I'm your host, Richard Marquez, and today with me is the amazing Justin Ozer. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good. Well, we're recording this today on Super Bowl / Super Discovery Sunday, so lots of good stuff going on.
That's right. Yeah, and there seems to be a poll on who's going to watch what tonight. Apparently, everyone's going to be watching Discovery tonight, which is awesome. So,
well, I will, but that's only because I don't really care about football. So,
yeah. Well, it's the Eagles and the Patriots. I don't care for either one.
Okay.
Yeah. And also with this, as always, is the lovely Amy Nelson. How you doing, Amy?
I'm doing great, and I am looking forward to the Super Bowl. I'm wearing my New England's Patriot shirt thanks to Ken Tripp from Standard Orbit, so gotta send my love his way. That's right. I love you, Ken.
Let's hope they don't deflate the balls this time.
Ooh.
That's for another podcast.
I know, right? So, talk about the demise of the Patriots is not what we're going to be talking about today. So, it looks like we got a couple of comments from our last episode, which would be Earl Grey 213, and that would be us talking about the character Gowron.
Yeah, so we got a comment from Christopher Baca, who says, I didn't realize he was in so few episodes of TNG. I thought he was a good character on TNG. It sets up the politics we see play out on DS9. For all their talk of honor, you get to see what slimy politicians the Klingon leadership can be. So thank you for the comment, Christopher. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to realize he was only in 4 episodes of The Next Generation. He was actually in more episodes of DS9. But yeah, we definitely do get to see in some of these episodes that Gowron's in and the Klingon leadership that there's some corrupt stuff going on, right?
Oh yeah, very much so. And
don't say anything about DS9.
Yeah.
Amy hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, okay. You guys are so kind to protect me and my unwatched DS9 episodes. So I'm looking forward to seeing Gowron in the future.
There you go.
Yeah, get more Gowron.
Yeah. Well, Tim Hans also made a comment, says, I have fond memories of Gowron as a character. It all goes back to the 1990s when I worked at a city-based farm, and one time when the herd of sheep they had there gave birth to a litter of little lambs. All those who worked there had the job and opportunity to give the newborn lambs their names. And as TNG was the thing for me at the time, I named one who I had a daily duty of bottle feeding, Gowron. What a cute little memory.
It's very cute of thinking of the lamb Gowron turning into the sheep Gowron.
Would that be a black sheep?
Well, I said maybe it became Chancellor of the Sheep Empire. But
Oh.
You think it has bug eyes?
Oh, most definitely.
Maybe Tim Hans, if you have a picture, you can show us. I don't know, probably from a long time ago, but
he's got if it doesn't have the eyes, he's got to Photoshop the eyes in there.
There you go.
yeah, but that's a great story.
Yeah, it is. It's really cute. I like it. I actually didn't know that lambs gave birth to more than one lamb. I thought it was like one and that was it, like other mammals. But
Well, it sounds like the herd of sheep, you have birthing seasons like cows and stuff. So
right.
Yeah,
right.
but
That
dogs
makes
are
more
mammals
sense.
too, and they give birth to litters. So
Well, I don't know.
I don't know, but
much about lambs.
I don't usually
obviously,
think about.
we have not
yeah.
been on a farm.
I know I haven't, but yeah, I haven't thought
city
about litters of lambs.
Litters of lambs. There we go. Well, Matthew Bell also commented, and he said, "Love the tangent on borders in three-dimensional space. Maybe they make us use the use of thousands of probes to relay the barrier or net signal." I
Yes.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We had that little tangent in the last episode about redemption, where they're trying to have this net, and it doesn't seem realistic. But maybe if they
Yeah,
have lots
because
of
it's
probes,
2-dimensional in 3-dimensional space. Yes.
yeah,
It
maybe
was
they
a
have
fun conversation.
thousands of probes in a spherical pattern. But yeah, I
Yeah.
like the idea. Thank you, Matthew.
It was a lot of fun. So, on to the episode. So today what we're going to be doing, I guess in a theme that it's February and it's almost Valentine's Day.
This episode drops the day before Valentine's Day.
Yes, it does.
It does.
So we have something special.
Yes, we do have something special. And because it's the day before that Valentine's Day, we're going to be talking about the love relationships the romances of TNG. So obviously we're going to be covering, some of the more crucial ones like, Picard, Crusher, and of course Amy's favorites, Riker and Troy.
Very good.
And all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to go through them as a list and discuss them as a relationship.
Yeah, and we've just picked out certain ones. It would be hard to be really comprehensive because there's so many, romances of the week and other things. So we're just picking out ones we're interested in. And, certainly listeners, if there are other ones that we didn't cover that you're interested in, you can drop us a comment about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we might as well start with the big ones. The big one.
Yes, the big one.
Picard or Crusher.
No.
I'm just kidding. Let's talk about Riker and Troy.
Yes, shall we?
Go.
We could
you know
spend
what?
a whole
Yeah, go ahead.
hour on Troy and Riker.
Probably
You-
could.
So condense it down.
Well, and it's hard to not include the book Imzadi because that gives us sort of the background of Riker and Troy. But we first learn of their past relationship on Encounter at Farpoint, where they know each other. And I love that they have that history. It really sets the characters that we feel like, oh, they know each other, therefore we know them right from the beginning. And I think it goes through the 7 seasons. And it's very interesting, their relationship. And the previous Earl Grey team has talked about, relationships in the 24th century and how, because Riker has his own little flings and Troy has hers. But throughout the season, that they always love each other, whether it be a romantic love or a friendship love, and then culminating with Nemesis, where they finally get married. So what do you guys think of the Riker-Troy relationship?
Well, I like it a lot. I mean, I like that it's this thread that runs through the entirety of TNG, really. You first find out about their past and Encounter at Farpoint, and then in Nemesis, they get married. And I also like that, it continues talking about their marriage and their relationship in the Titan books after that. So it's like this thing that's a thread through the whole series and, a lot of the movies. But what I like about it, too, is that they've had this past relationship. It's ended by the time you get to Encounter at Farpoint. It seems like pretty much. But there are different points during the 7 seasons where you see that they're still, like, it's really amicable. They're still friendly toward each other. They talk about, different relationships that they have. And it's like, and other people, like people come up to Riker, like I think Worf does to Riker at one point, like, is it okay if I do someone with Troy's like, hey, it's up to her. No big deal. Don't worry about it. But everybody knows that there is this history and that they have to kind of, respect that. And I really love that it kind of comes back full force in Insurrection and then into Nemesis, because it feels like they've always been the right people for each other. And, I love the kind of glimpses that we get, and finally having, that satisfying, I'm getting married in Nemesis. So, which I think is one of the best parts of Nemesis.
Yeah. And I like that, you marry your best friend and you can see their friendship, go through so many different stages, and that they end up together, and you don't have to jump into marriage, right? When you first meet someone or anything, that their relationship evolves, and it's really beautiful relationship.
Yeah, and it can be complex. But what do you think, Richard? You haven't told us your thoughts yet.
I really like the Riker and Troy relationship. It's so remembering it from Encounter at Farpoint. I don't know. I maybe it's just me. I don't know, but it didn't look right between the two. I mean, it didn't seem like they should be together for me, or at least that's what it felt like in the beginning. But as the season progressed, and then of course we went to other seasons and everything, it felt like they match. I don't know quite how to describe that, but like they look. I don't want to say similar, because I mean, it's that like, you have that kind of same style to each other, and one complements the other and whatnot. And they feel like an actual couple as we progress into the later seasons. So like maybe the first half of season 1, it didn't look like they were, romantic or wanted to be a couple. But I mean, like I said, they look great. By the time it gets to Nemesis, I'm not going to even talk about that other one. But the movie that shall not be named. But like, I mean, I really like this relationship. It's, I would hope, it's what everyone would strive for in a relationship, to be something like kind of like what they have, which seems to me very close and very personal. And it's like, I'm pretty sure they're a couple where they can probably finish each other. Well, besides the mental telepathy, finish each other's sentences.
Well, and I like that they are always honest with each other, that they know each other in so many different ways, so many different levels, just that pure honesty. They're very authentic one with another. And when one's going through a hard time, like in The Lost, and Riker's like, snap out of it, and she's mean to him and stuff. But that's real life. You have struggles, and you want someone who's there for you all the time. So it's a great relationship.
Well, I do have one question, Amy. Do you, if she didn't have those empathy, like abilities, would he be that honest? I mean, because obviously she knows when he's lying, right?
Yeah, but I think that he knows her well enough that he also knows when she's lying. Not that she ever does, but
like
I mean,
intuition. Yeah.
Also, I think when you see Riker in other relationships, you don't really see him lying or being deceptive, unless I'm not remembering something right, to other people he's involved with. I think generally he tries to be like honest and straightforward about his intentions and how he feels about things. So I don't think that would change. But I do have something to throw a little wrench in things. So
a curveball.
So wait, is Ro here?
No, Richard.
Don't bring her up. I
promised I wasn't going to say anything about that on this episode. And you had to bring that up.
I didn't.
No. The wrench is something different. So here's what I wonder: like, how much is it of their circumstances and what they've been through that works for them or that makes them right for each other? Because I think of the episode Second Chances, where you have Thomas Riker, who's basically the same person who's been through 8 years of different experiences.
Yeah.
And in the end, it wouldn't quite work with that person that's been through those like really tough experiences over that 8 years, and still hasn't worked out him prioritizing, his career in Starfleet over their relationship. So how much of it do you think is that they've had certain circumstances that in the end are conducive to their relationship?
That's funny you mentioned that, because I was just talking to my wife about how she was, early, like in high school, because we grew up basically near each other, and I was like, "How would I was like, if I met you back in high school, would you have dated me back then?" She's like, "Yeah, probably not."
I love her.
And I'm like, oh, "Are you saying that I'm not good enough for you back then?" But like, I think that's kind of like this, where she's matured quite a bit, and obviously I don't want to say miles. She's gotten more experience, and she's gone through a lot more, and she's just a little bit more mature. There we go. Mm-hmm. And as a person, as a woman, I would hope so, a counselor too. Yeah. But I mean, and he's like the past, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, Riker has been through these experiences in those previous 8 years before that episode, Second Chances, Will Riker has been through these experiences that have also led to him, maturing and maybe getting to a place where eventually that's going to work. And that's one of the things that I like about their relationship. It isn't like, okay, they had a past relationship and next week let's bring them back together. It takes some years for them to really adjust to it, to find that place again. In Insurrection, which is supposed to take place like 11 years after Encounter at Farpoint. So there's been a lot of time there. And the Thomas Riker that's stuck on this planet for 8 years just trying to survive hasn't had the interaction with people and the experiences to mature in that way. So I think there's something also about what Will Riker has experienced in those years that makes it so that it can be right and work out later where it didn't before.
Exactly. And because Thomas Riker was remembering, probably through rose-colored glasses, their relationship, that they had previously.
Yeah. And what Deanna was like 8 years before, which might be different.
Yeah. And so, you see them, and both of them grow individually and grow together as friends. And like I said, just knowing each other on so many different levels. It's not just the pure relationship. It's not the sexual relationship, but they are learning each other about in command situations, as friends, friends in a group, friends individually. Like, it's really beautiful. And I think, when you're looking back like Thomas did, you're just going to always want that, because when you look back, it's like, oh, I wish things could have, been that way. And you're just always going to try and remember that. But he doesn't know who Deanna is, and she, has moved on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also they've had this experience working together on a ship, Will and Deanna. And I think before they got on the Enterprise, I'm trying to remember, I don't think they had actually served on a ship together. Is that right?
That's exactly what I was just about to say, too, because I don't think they actually did. Obviously, it's different when you're like stationed there on Beta Z and you happen to run into her for some odd reason while she's there. What was it? She was training. Is that basically what she was doing, or was she? No. I'm thinking Tin Man. No, she was a therapist for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and some of where we have to get some of that information is from the novels. Which aren't canon. But because I was just trying to remember, is there something I was missing, or did they serve together on a ship before? And I don't think that they did, so. or at least it's not mentioned in the series. So I think that helps to, like, working in that kind of professional capacity together can also affect, how they see each other and working in different relationships and maturing in that way. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I just, in that working relationship, I think that they both also gained but they gained respect for each other, and it's like, look at all the decisions that Riker's had to make and that Troy's had to make. And I just, that level of respect and getting to know each other. I know I've said this a million times, but it's just a really solid relationship, so that when they do end up decide getting together in Insurrection and then finally getting married in Nemesis, it just really makes sense and is great for their characters because of what they have been through together serving.
All right. So, I mean, we could obviously talk more about Riker and Troy, but we only have an hour.
Yes.
So let's move on to the next one. Worf and Troy.
See, now here I'm going to sound like I'm contrary because I love the Worf and Troy relationship as well.
Okay, well then let's. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't, because I really do enjoy Riker Troy together, but I love Worf and Troy too. What I like about it, and I think I might have mentioned this before, is that their relationship we get to see from ground zero. So there's nothing previous to it, but we see Worf and finally we get to see him be vulnerable, and he's vulnerable with Troy. And so for me, it's only natural that a relationship is going to want to bloom out of that relationship. After he loses Kalar and after we get Alexander on the ship and he's just at a loss and doesn't know, and he's trying to be this father, and he goes to her for advice. And then they, through the many episodes, well, make a contract with Alexander, and that goes for you too. And so she's very honest with Worf as well, and it's like, you've got to do your part. And and so I really love just that, the beginning stages of a relationship. And then, like you said, Worf is so honor bound that, well, in All Good Things, we really should check with Riker. Why is he going to come to the holodeck with us? I love that line, but I just think it's so wonderful to see this relationship bloom, just the bud of a relationship.
Yeah, I actually really like the Worf-Troy relationship as well. I know a lot of people don't because they feel like it seems to come from nowhere. But I mean, I think there are certain seeds that were planted even, I think, a couple seasons before you see them in parallels with, I think it's ethics where hold on. Let me do that again.
Yeah, ethics is a really good one too.
I mean, I think it's ethics, which is in season 4 or 5, maybe it's 5, where you see that Worf thinks that he's going to, I guess, take his life or be paralyzed for a while, and wants Deanna to help take care of Alexander, and they more formalize that a couple years later. But like it's interesting because I was rewatching Parallels today, and they're kind of saying that in multiple different universes, Worf is married to Troy, and
I love it.
and I kind of really like them together, and here's why. So, Worf can be kind of like really like rough and kind of maybe rude to people and doesn't open up much, but I think that Troy can have the right personality to help bring more out of him. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, also, I mean, I think that that there's a certain like different kind of experience that Troy can try to understand, or that can strengthen her own experiences. So I like it. I mean, it is kind of weird that it comes up in Parallels because he goes to these parallel universes where they're married, and it makes him wonder. And toward the end of the episode, he kind of takes her on a date with dinner and champagne.
Yeah.
And you see it a little bit more in, I think, Eye of the Beholder and All Good Things, and not much more after that. But I've always really liked it and wish we would have seen more of it. I think it makes sense why it wouldn't work in the end. And actually that's covered quite a bit in Peter David's other book, Imzadi 2, which I actually really like, and it kind of shows why that relationship wouldn't work, because Worf does have all of these Klingon customs and ways that Troy is not as much into.
He's got a lot of baggage,
and he has a lot of baggage too. So I wouldn't say that she's the ideal person for him, but I like what they can do for each other, at least on the basis that we see in season 7.
That
Richard,
really shows opposites can attract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now
Richard?
here's your place, Richard, to say why you don't like it.
All right, here we go. No, it's just so. I know I've said this. I've also said this several times before. I just see Troy as this, I don't want to, soft is probably inappropriate, but like this kind, gentle woman, and
she
yes,
is
soft
soft.
too. It's soft and everything. And then you got this rock. No offense to Michael Dougherty, but like you got this rock, and it doesn't match well. That's why I love the Jadzia and Worf relationship. That relationship is great. I love it. That's actually one of my favorites in DS9. But like when it came to like Worf and Troy, maybe if they were to do something earlier than where they saw it. I mean, Ethics was a tearjerker for me. I absolutely love and hate that episode. But yeah, but yeah, for obvious reasons. But like it's if they would have done something a little bit earlier, maybe I don't know, season 2, maybe like once or break up Riker and Troy for whatever reason, and then Worf takes her on a date and whatnot, and do some kind of storyline of some sort like that. Then that I could see it. But I think they waited too long because for me, when it got to all good things, it felt awkward, or at least to me it did. I mean, it didn't look right. Because like I said earlier, Riker and Troy look like they belong together, based on look, as in like how they're dressed and everything and whatnot, and even hairstyle. I can't believe we even talk about hairstyle. Even hairstyle, but like it just doesn't. For me, it doesn't match. So I mean, I don't know.
Here's the interesting thing about that. Now, Richard, I will agree with you that Jadzia and Worf are a much better pairing, and it works much better for a lot of reasons that I won't talk about, Amy, too much. But so. However, like what's really interesting is, Richard, you see Troy as kind of soft or gentle, and I think for the most part they've done. But there are indications in certain episodes during the Next Generation that she can do what needs to be done and to do her duty. I think of an episode like Disaster, where she has to make some really difficult decisions and really take command to in that situation to save the ship. But also what's interesting is that I think you see more of that later. So, for example, the appearances of Troy you see in Voyager when she's with Barclay and doing Project Pathfinder and all of that. She's somebody that you actually really don't want to mess with, and has gotten to be like stronger. So, and you see that in some of the novels as well. I'm thinking particularly the Battle of Beta Z, which is a great one, which takes place during the Dominion War. But it's kind of like at this point I can see how it's not quite right. But later on, based on other experiences, she might have actually been more of that match for Worf based on what we see later.
Well, and I just wanted to say, because you brought up the hairstyle, and I thought, well, that's sort of funny, but but it's a good point, because as we see Worf in the later seasons, like he grows his hair out a little bit longer. It's in that sexy ponytail, not gonna lie, just on Worf.
And Troy gets to undo that ponytail and look at all that hair.
But that makes him softer, and so I think there is, and it's just funny you bring that up, because I'm like, yeah, well, Worf sort of got a little softer in the tiniest, most bit of way. But yeah, here he is, like you said, just this rock, rigid, hard, and she's the soft, vulnerable. But yet, I don't know. I really like their relationship because those exact opposites, and they play well one with another.
Well, you didn't like the Bob?
No, that was disastrous.
No,
I loved it when his hair started getting longer. I'm like, there we go.
Yeah,
Bring
so
on the
did I.
handsome.
Yeah, it actually worked well for the character. Yeah, it was great. But yeah, I absolutely, just a little quick tangent. I love Troy in that First Contact uniform. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. I think the First Contact uniform looks great on everybody.
Oh, well, I think it looks better on her than anyone else, but yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, and one thing with the Worf and Troy, I think I might be a little more enjoyable of this relationship because I've seen them so many times at conventions. And Marina Sirtis and Michael Dorn, they are fabulous together. I mean, they're just such good friends in real life. It's great to see. And so I think that sort of colors how I picture them in the Next Gen as well.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think the Marina Sirtis of real life, if the Troy character was more like Marina Sirtis, she would have been the one that would be actually doing like the Batleth practice and being this badass. I don't know, more like Jedzi is.
Yeah, well, and I think Troy sort of shows. Some girls like the bad boy, and here's Worf, this bad boy, type of thing. Can't believe I just said that.
Well, the show wouldn't be PG-13; it'd be like rated R.
Yes,
because she tends to speak what's on her mind.
Oh, you mean if it was really Marina Sirtis as yeah.
I
can see that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be problematic. So moving along, let's talk about Worf and Kalar.
Yes.
Yep.
Amy likes this one too.
I'm liking all of these relationships. Gosh.
Okay.
Do I believe in monogamy? We'll be the judge of that.
Oh man.
Oh dear, listeners.
The thread, I could see that.
Yeah. So I really enjoy Worf and Kalar, and I'm wondering if it's because of Susie Plaxton, right? I love Kalar, and she can put Worf in his place. She makes Worf sort of stumble and question himself, and she just is so good with him. So I really like the Worf and Kalar relationship.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I love Worf and Kalar, and she is definitely Worf's match. Can challenge him, can fight with him, can kind of deflate his kind of outer persona that he gives to people. That he, like you were saying, Richard, like he is like this rock that has no feelings and is all about battle and honor. I think she's really great for him, and I think in a way it's a shame they had to kill her so that we didn't see her again or see where that relationship might have gone, if it might have been something that could be more long term, because it seemed like in the second appearance in Reunion, maybe if she didn't die, it could have gone further. But I think she is really great at just challenging him to be a more rounded person and not just like this kind of wall of like honor and battle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So my opinion on Worf, I think he's a rock, but I think he's one of the more emotional ones when you get past his wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those people that who puts on a good show.
He's a
on
deep
the outside.
well.
There you go. You go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And I like this. I would like this relationship, but the only reason why I don't like it now is mainly because I really wish they would have built on this relationship when Kalar died, to bond more with his son and everything. Because like from what I remember is that, or at least how I saw it, is that the relationship between Alexander and Worf, like, grew further apart, because obviously he went back to Earth to grow up with his grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
and and it basically sent him off to, without him. And I really thought that something like this would be a perfect opportunity to build off of. But like, I mean, I love the relationship. Don't get me wrong, but it just reminds me of Alexander and how he could have built on this. This is what your mother would have wanted us to do, and then it very well could have softened up Worf. Actually, it could have ended up with more stories. But like,
yeah, and
I like it.
I always wonder too what would have happened if Kalar hadn't died, and if somehow she was in a position to actually like marry Worf and live with him and Alexander, and what would that have been like? I don't know, because you're right that like Alexander does get kind of pushed elsewhere, and those family relationships for Worf, you don't see them much for a while.
Yeah.
Well, funny you say that, because I was thinking just sort of the Kalar Worf story almost mirrors the Riker Troy, because when she comes back, and she's like, what do you think, that I would give up my being an ambassador, or that you would leave the Enterprise? What, you know, and so it's like they both have aspiring careers in front of them. And so it just wasn't the right time for them to get together and just give up everything and go be a little Klingon family somewhere, you know, which is what we learn about with Riker and Troy. They both had ambitions and careers and, you know, the goals that they wanted to set for themselves. So being in a relationship would have hurt that instead of help that. So.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, like Riker and Troy, Worf and Kalar had some relationship some years before we see her in season 2. And I don't know if we know that much about the circumstances, but yeah, it was something that happened, didn't work, and then kind of gets picked up again in the next couple of episodes. But yeah, I do wonder if a lot of why I like the relationship is Susie Plaxton and the way she plays the character, and that I would just want to see more of her as that character to see where that would go. I mean, also like the idea of her as like a Federation ambassador who's half Klingon is really interesting. I want to see her on more missions and, you know, what she does in that role, right? I think that would be really, really a fascinating thing to see. So, yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I love how Kalar puts Worf into his place.
Yes.
You know, she's one of those strong women, and I don't know if she's like that in real life, but oh my gosh, she just, hey, you know, he might have something to talk about or something like that, or something he's trying to pull over, and I could just see her. Nope, we're stopping us right now.
Yeah.
This bus stops here. But like, I absolutely, I love how she interacts with
and
him.
like in the first encounter, she's like really forward with Worf. I just wanted to read it out. Where'd it go? Oh yeah. So like as soon as she sees him in the episode The Emissary, she says, "So this is where you've been hiding. I told you we'd meet again. Aren't you going to greet me?" She just like really confronts him right there, and nobody does that to Worf. So I love that she can do that and be like, "Hey, Worf, what's going on?" You know?
Yeah. She doesn't beat around the bush. That's what I love about her.
Yeah, and I think that she always like tries to be honest in her interactions, although not telling Worf that, you know, he has a son is weird. But other than that, I think she tries to be really straightforward with him, and I like that.
So, I guess moving along, let's talk about Picard and Crusher. I mean, it's tragic that how it started. I mean, obviously their friendship, and he still had feelings for her, and you know, obviously he had to cap that off with Jack. And then, you know,
what do you mean cap that off?
Well, I mean, because he mentions that he had feelings for Beverly before Jack. And,
yes.
And while they were friends, obviously.
Yeah.
And then basically when they got married and had Wesley and everything, he kind of had to stop all that in his head. And, you know, because it's his best friend, right? Mm-hmm. Jack was his best
pretty
friend.
much. Yeah. I think that's what they say, yeah.
So, you know, it I mean, it sucks to do that, but I mean, I guess he values, obviously he values friendship versus you know, and doesn't want to mess that up. So I really love this relationship. This the way it was written originally. I mean, just like all the relationships, you know, there was a little, okay, I could see that. But when we got to the end, wow, I absolutely love this relationship. And I love how close they get to each other. You know, playing off of each other. You know, not being in a relationship, but they do, and they play this sort of like, I don't want to say game, but I guess dance to become a relationship. And you know, eventually, obviously, I don't know if you read some of the novels, but some of them they actually eventually got together. So, but yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read it. So.
Yeah, I really think, and I don't know if I want to say this, but like the Riker Troy, like that's a good relationship and they have a past. And just like Picard and Beverly, there's a past with them. But I see Riker and Troy having more relationships of the week where Beverly and Picard, they seem to be more the wholesome ones where they don't have these. I mean, they do, but not as frequently.
That Beverly had a relationship with a ghost.
Well, okay. Well, and Picard had, okay. But I'm just saying, like, when I think about Beverly and Jean-Luc, like, the writing of that relationship is so amazing because the interplay between them, just starting from, like, The Naked Now, and she calls him Jean-Luc. And there's always this familiarity that they have because of their past friendship, which they both know there might have been something, but because of Jack and everything. And so then to have that, and then we see in All Good Things, like, that they actually did get married and it just didn't work out. Like, but the interplay throughout the seasons, and especially in Attached, you know, where it just sort of almost solidifies that, yeah, they really could be together, I just think is great. And that sexual tension seems to show up more throughout the series, even more so than Riker and Troy, because of that sort of the forbidden, because of Jack Crusher. So I like that dynamic.
It's interesting you say that because I like Picard and Crusher a lot, but I feel like through a lot of the 7 seasons that it's very much, with a few exceptions like The Naked Now, it's very much underplayed, and I see it as kind of very much in the background, especially compared to Riker and Troy, which you're thinking about more. Attached is one of my favorite episodes because I love seeing them actually get out in the open with their feelings and try to kind of work through it. But I feel like in a lot of ways before that it's very underplayed, and I don't like see it as much, again with the exception of The Naked Now. But I do really like, you know, especially in Attached, how they are interacting with each other, and it makes a lot of sense. And I do love that in the novels they get together and they get married, but you know, it feels like a lot of it's underplayed to me. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't see that tension as much for a lot of the episodes between them.
Okay, so there's a lot of times and a lot of criticism, especially on Mission Log, so sorry, where they're always bonk bonk on the head. And I'm like, I love that. But with the Beverly and Jean-Luc, that is not bonk bonk on the head. And I love that. So,
I mean, it's clear, like, when they're having breakfast together, that there is something a little more intimate than just the captain and his chief medical officer.
And I
but
love
it's not,
that.
It's not more overt. Yeah.
Yeah, those breakfasts are just totally seal the deal for me. Yep.
Especially when it gets interrupted by Vash.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get to Vash.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. You're going to see some like WWF or something like that.
Yeah, but when talking about Vash, because we're going to talk about her next.
We'll talk about her next.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Because Vash is intelligent enough to know that there's something between Beverly and Jean-Luc, right? You know, as women, you sort of pick these things up. And so I love that interplay too, you know, and is Beverly okay with it? Maybe not, maybe so. What's Vash going to do about it to, you know, try and win Jean-Luc over? You know, it's a very interesting love triangle with those 2 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've said it before that I really like Vash with Picard. You know, sort of like, as we said before, opposites attract with Worf and Troy. But like with Vash, I don't want to say it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I think she's like a fling. That's all. That's all she is. Yeah, that's
complete.
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I probably have more PR stuff inappropriate, but anyway, she's one of those flings that it don't kind of work out. She's dangerous, and she likes living on the edge sort of thing, whereas Picard, maybe if Picard was younger, like just getting out of the academy and everything, then that would work, but not as
the Picard of Tapestry when you see him like at the academy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely they would work well because I mean he liked living on the edge at that time, and obviously because he had a knife go through his heart. And it would work back then, but now that he's experienced and I guess
Matured.
very reserved, mature as well, and whatnot, it's not a good match.
But
Well,
you
one
like it
thing-
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing I like about it that it shows, like, you sometimes are attracted to this. Ooh, look at this lifestyle, and I want to, go experience it. I think that's what you see, and I just think that's so fun to, try and capture. But it's not going to work out in the long run. I mean, I've been in a couple relationships.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is so fun, blah, blah. And then it's like, yeah, this is just not me. So let's get back to reality. It's Vosh is the Risa, getaway. Like you said,
Oh.
fling.
Yeah. Well, I think I've made it clear how I feel about this on a past episode of Earl Grey, but I really don't like Picard and Vosh together. Like, in the interesting thing with Vosh, I always thought she was in more episodes. She's only in 2, Captain's Holiday and Cupid. And in Captain's Holiday, there's this thing that's going on, and Vosh is a part of it and is really deceiving Picard. I mean, I guess I could see how he would find it kind of, exciting. He's on this, this pleasure planet, and he's saying that he's just there to read his book, but he doesn't seem
Has
too
a
displeased,
Horgon out there.
but doesn't know what it means yet. But like, and he finds out, like, in the course of this, who she really is, right? Mm-hmm. And then she comes back in Cupid, and it's like Q sets up this thing where he has to save her, and he does, but I don't know. I just feel really weird about it. Like, it doesn't even get the space to really be anything other than just like an adventure, and she's deceptive. And I kind of like that at the end of Cupid, she just heads off with Q, because that's kind of the right person, So anyway, at least to have some kind of adventure. I've just never really liked that relationship, because it just
Yeah, me
feels
neither.
like... No, I'm talking about Picard and Vosh.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
you are? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't like them together.
You don't? Oh, okay. Anyway, but yeah, it's interesting. We're saying, like, there's something like exciting about it, or that kind of works, but it's not really like...
Yeah,
a
it's not
thing.
reality.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the thing is, like with Cupid, and I think Picard even says it's like, you could have replaced Vosh with anyone, and I still would have done anything in my power to save that person, because of his integrity and what he believes in life and, stuff like that. It's not that it was Vosh. It
No.
was that I'm going to save this person and, stuff like that. So
Let's write some
I-
fan fiction. Instead of Vosh, it's Troy, and Picard has to save Troy, and they have a great relationship and live happily ever after that.
no, don't.
I'm
I
just
did
messing
not
with
like
Amy
that.
said.
He's like, nope, denied.
Okay. He has to save Beverly Crusher.
Well, one of my favorite relationships with Picard is Commander Darren. I love this so much, and if it wasn't for Crusher, oh my gosh, this I think this would have been a really really great. I mean, obviously this is after Inner Light, and he has he learned how to play. What was it?
It's a flute.
I want to say it was Skillian. Okay, there
Ressican
you go.
flute. Yeah.
The
There you go.
Ressican flute.
There you go.
But now with a duet, he shares it.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. It's like, to me, this relationship works really well. She fits that mold of being reserved, experienced, and she's a little bit at a distance, trying to get to know Picard and whatnot. And I guess the whole fraternization is also another issue too, because obviously
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard to be the captain of a starship when everyone's under you and you can't really date anyone, which sucks. But like, I really love it. It's beautiful. I really think that it's a very genuine like relationship, and I think it would have worked.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, I've said it on a previous episode. I love the Picard-Darren relationship so much. I even prefer it to the Picard-Crusher relationship, because there's something about Nella Darren that I think, like you were saying a little bit, Richard, like she's someone who's she can be reserved, but she can be like really straightforward. Also has, like the shared interest in music, and they're geeking out on the science during the episode lessons, and there's just something that feels like it's like with the way I see Picard sometimes is that he's someone that on the outside seems like, he's just like calm and measured. But I think a lot of times there's a lot of things that are kind of roiling inside of him that he really is trying just to keep a lid on and not to get out. But I felt like even seeing in the episode lessons that Darren could be the kind of person that could help to, I don't know, let some of that out or deal with that, or in like a therapeutic way, like through the music or, something like that. I don't know. There's just something I feel like there's like a great potential for the relationship. And I'm actually sad they didn't come back to it or have them meet again at some point. I mean, it was destined the way that they wrote it that it wouldn't work out, but I like them a lot. And I think it makes sense from the very first for me. And it's just one of my, favorite relationships in Star Trek and favorite for Picard. So, Amy, here's your place to disagree.
Yes, I do not like this relationship. I think for romance of the week, it works just fine. But I never bought into that Picard within this small amount of space would be willing to open up to someone, especially like Richard, what you said, his subordinate, like that. He's got too many scruples. It's not going to fly. He's too by the book at this point in his life. And so I didn't see that working. I didn't see, they have this share of music but it didn't work for me. And I love the episode. Don't get me wrong. For a relationship of the week, it works just fine. But I am glad that it never worked out. I didn't believe that he got so emotionally involved with this person. It just didn't work for me. And I can hear your points and I see what you're saying, and that's fine. I just happen to disagree.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, it's interesting because usually these romances of the week don't work for me. This is one of the very few that actually does work for me, and I feel like there's the way that they're playing it and the investment in the relationship and how things develop and how she challenges him and kind of brings certain things out and can share kind of this secret life that he had a little bit through the music. I don't know. We'll disagree, but it works for me really well.
Yeah, well, as far as, a relationship of the week, I'm saying it's the best episode of a relationship of the week, but I'm glad it was just for that 1 week.
Okay. We'll disagree on that. But it's also, TNG at that point wasn't the kind of show where you would just bring someone on and then it would just kind of continue from there. So it was never going to work out. But if it were, I would like that. So,
So moving along, let's talk about the movie that should not be spoken of, and the
except
relationship.
We're going to speak of it.
Except for we're going to speak of it just this one time. It's one break in the time continuum. I will take the hit with the Office of Temporal Incursions or whatever.
Are you going to take the criticism from Ken as well?
And also Ken too. So
sorry, Ken.
Here we go. Let me put on my shield. So let's talk about Anij and Picard. Amy, you want to start us off?
Yes, I love this relationship, and it comes head to head with Beverly and Jean-Luc. Like, this one to me seems very authentic. I love Anij. I think she brings out his philosophical side, which I think is his best side, and just teaches him to slow down and to enjoy life and to look at it through a new perspective. And how she does that in such a loving yet not forceful, pushing, none of that. Like, she is who she is. And that's what I love. She's so authentic and he is drawn to her. And I just think that is for me, it's just such a great relationship. It really does rival. And I don't know if I could say which is better, which I prefer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think I said it on a previous episode. I do like Picard and Anij together. I think for all of the reasons that you put forward, Amy. I mean, and also, yeah, she's very much just like, here's who I am. Let's just see where this goes. And I think there are some really beautiful scenes in the movie where they're just really like talking to each other and opening up with each other, and she's bringing out some things in him that I think he has to deal with, or he has to really think about, and really, slowing things down and just taking some moments to really realize where he is and what's important in life. So I like her a lot for all of those reasons. Now, I think Darren's better, but I mean, I think Anij is definitely up there, and I prefer Devash for sure.
Honestly, if we were to compare Darren to Anij, I really think that they're the same person. As in, like, when it comes to like slowing down and bringing the best out of Picard, and okay, I have seen the movie. Just to clarify.
Very good.
Of course I have. But like one of the scenes that I really like about her when he talks to her is that, taking life slow or slowing life down and whatnot. And then, him describing that people would kill or, trade everything to slow their pace of life, which, in a society that we're in today, I mean, who wouldn't want to slow things down? Maybe not to a standstill like she was showing him, but at least to catch up and to appreciate things.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about that relationship between the two is that it's one of those life lessons that you get, that you could only know that you're going to know when you're getting older, is to appreciate things a little bit more when you get older. And that could also apply to relationships too. So
yeah, and that's what I like is that, Picard obviously is older from when we met him at Encounter Farpoint. And so it just seems so fitting for his stage in his life to meet her and to experience this with her. It just seems so natural.
Yeah, and there's so much to learn from somebody who's even much older. Right?
Okay, well, that seems to be all the major ones, or at least that's what we thought were the major ones. If you guys have any more relationships that you would like to talk about, we'll probably come back later on in another episode and cover the rest of them as well. So just let us know in the Babel Conference in the comment of this episode, and we'll gladly discuss it on another later episode of Earl Grey. So let's talk about final thoughts. Justin, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when we do this and we just look at the next generation from a certain perspective, in this case, the romantic relationships, because in just looking at that, like Riker Troy, just looking at all of the different interactions they had and how the relationship progresses, it makes you think about it in a different way. And when we're talking about, Thomas Riker and why that didn't work out, and what's interesting to notice is that when we talk about like what are kind of considered the major relationships, a lot of them are in terms of, Riker and Worf and Picard, I think. And we, I guess, tend to think of it more that way instead of like, what are the major relationships for, Troy and Crusher and maybe Yar or somebody like that. So I think it's interesting the way that the writers kind of structured how the different relationships work and which ones feel more prominent in our mind. And I mean, of course, there are a lot of kind of relationships of the week for, Troy or Crusher, but, the ones that really stick in our mind, I think, are the ones that are maybe a bit more from the perspective of like Riker, Worf, Picard. I just think it's interesting to look at the list and realize that.
Huh. Well, that's interesting because I look at it coming from the perspective of Troy. I know that's no surprise. But, looking at the relationships of the week and stuff like that, which we didn't go into, I mean, because there are so many, Troy is definitely involved with quite a few. And I would say Riker, like I said before, Riker and Troy have a lot of relationships of the week, probably more so than the others. But what I like about, like you said, looking at Next Gen through this perspective is so interesting because you can see the writers really delving into many different types of relationships that we as society and we as humans go through. We see the sexual relationships, we see the friendship relationships and how that can develop into a stronger, more romantic relationship. We can see the working relationships, being on a starship and stuff like that. So I really enjoy looking at it through this lens of these relationships and, sort of having your flings and coming back to reality. And it's just been really fun. I've really enjoyed this.
I really like actually going through these and thinking of it through from season 1 to season 7. And it definitely shows that the writers grew. I love it that they they tried multiple things and whatnot, and I love the progression that we saw with all the relationships, really from the very beginning to the end. And I just hope that we could see that in other shows. So, but it definitely was an eye opener to how they grew, from the beginning to the end. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting that we talked about some things in Insurrection and Nemesis, but nothing in Generations and First Contact. I guess maybe there just wasn't as much there for those kinds of relationships, maybe.
That's a good point because there's...
Well, Generations, I think we've said it before, like in my mind, when Picard goes into the Nexus.
When he goes into Victoria... Christmas Tree Land.
Yeah, that really needs to be Beverly. I'm so sorry. I will always say that it needs to be Beverly.
Or could it possibly be another? I don't know if this is how they did it, but why they did it. But could it be a different one because he's not entirely sure about Beverly? You know what I mean? Like
it should have been Noah Darren.
Yeah.
No.
I'm just saying, it could be like it could be the misinterpretation or the interpretation of him being confused on who he wants to be with. Is it Beverly or is it someone like her or what? Sort of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Or maybe it was just because they couldn't get her. I don't know. To do it. I don't know.
In First Contact, they're just too busy saving the Earth anyway.
Yes,
there you go.
It's a Borg story.
It's a run and gun movie.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because you couldn't really evolve a relationship out of that. I mean, that would just be too awkward.
Unless Picard had a relationship with Lily,
First Contact with drunk Troy, it was always Will who was nursing her out of her drunken state, so her hangover. So that's in my headcanon. So there's the relationship there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was her talking the way she wants to talk.
Yes. That was Marina.
Yep.
Well, listeners, we just wanted to give you a preview for what we're going to be talking about next week. So cue up your season 3, and we're going to look at some character moments from season 3. So you can look forward to that.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. It's going to become harder to choose these things.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Can't we just break them up into part 1 and part 2 of season 3 or something like that?
No, we haven't done that before.
Take it.
You'll just have to, choose your moments.
Yep.
Choose wisely.
Oh, yes.
Well, it's been so much fun talking about the romantic relationships on TNG, but that isn't the only thing we've been talking about here on the network. Here's what you might have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, Literary Treks.
But let's start with that first one, that Siege in Super Space. So, oh boy, Super Space. I don't know. Is this better than Subspace? Is it?
Well,
I
What
think
is
it
this?
is. The thing I really love about this issue is we haven't had many stories at all about super space.
The Edge, a Star Trek Discovery podcast.
Right. So, okay, they're under orders. They're not supposed to talk about it, and that's how you maintain the continuity that Kirk and Spock are surprised that there's a mirror universe. I mean, that works. That makes sense. But these people were there. They know that there's doppelgangers there because they know that because Cadet Tilly became Captain Killy, right? They know this.
To the journey!
There was a lot of face melting in this episode. You're right.
Everyone's melting. What a world! What a world! It was, and everybody was slimy looking. Why were they so sweaty? Why?
7 of 9 had this full-on Borg Queen look about her.
She did, and who else was really sweaty looking? Besides 7.
Neelix was really sweaty looking. I thought
he was.
And he had kind of a silver tone. He had the silver
He
blood
did.
coming
Like,
through.
he was distinguished melting Neelix.
Yes. Yeah, he got a buff and polish.
The 602 Club.
No, I mean, it was really all we had was like animated shows. Like you had like the animated Batman series, the animated Superman series, and as far as the big screen went, it was not so great. I mean, you had Blade. Blade was... Some people cite Blade as kind of the precursor for the superhero genre picking back up, but it was very much kind of a genre film. I know technically it is a comic book film. I don't know if I'd count it in the realm of like big budget superhero movies.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out all of the shows and join the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and written review. That helps other listeners find our show.
If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, in most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab the RSS link.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways you can do that. The best place is to join the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, B-A-B-E-L, into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select Earl Grey. That will come right to us. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. So Richard, where can people find you when you're not thinking about Worf and Troy together?
Not thinking about Worf and Troy. Well, they can find me on Facebook. I pop in here and there on the Babel Conference. And I am also on Twitter. My handle is XRansom. So, AB, where can people find you when you're not attending Troy's and Riker's wedding?
Oh, I would love to be there. You can find me here on the network. I'm hosting with Brandon Shea Mutala, The Edge, which is Star Trek's Discovery coverage. No.
Podcast?
Yes, the podcast, yes. So you can find me here on the network co-hosting The Edge, which is our Trek FM's dedicated podcast to Discovery with Brandon Shea Mutala. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson. But my favorite place is right there in the Babel Conference. And Justin, where can people find you when you're not rooting for Picard and Darren to have a long-term relationship?
Well, I'm always rooting for that, and my hope always springs eternal for Picard and Darren. But usually, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. Currently tweeting out my Season 4 rewatch of The Next Generation. I know it's been going on for a while, but I'm getting close. A couple episodes left. And then on to Season 5. And you can also find me hanging around the Babel Conference on Facebook. If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more, available through our special patrons website, the Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/trekfm.
We'd like to take this opportunity to recognize our current associate producers. They are Norman Lau, Justin Ozer, and Michael Huter. Thank you so much for supporting Trek FM and Earl Grey.
So join us next time for another cup of Earl Grey.
Great joy and gratitude.
Things are only impossible until they're not.
It was very stimulating.